What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Huddle, your weekly playbook helping you gain forward progress in your flooring career. To our new viewers, welcome to the team. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, sir?
Oh, G Money.
All right, I've got a confession. I almost forgot about the podcast today. Actually, I did forget about the podcast today, and texted Miss Ashlyn or slacked her like 3 seconds before it was supposed to start. Like, hey, do we have a podcast today?
She told me I got on, and she's like, "Why is Paul asking me if there's a podcast today?"
So is Jose and I on the outside. So
Yep.
is what it
As
is.
usual.
What's up? I'm heading into a new year, and gosh, it's just been kind of a wild time. What have you guys been up to closing out this 2024?
That's it. Trying to
Yeah.
close everything out, basically, is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
What does that
Following
look
up
like for you
people
guys?
as far
What does
as
that mean? I'll tell you what it means
it
for
means,
me.
yeah.
It
Go ahead.
means, your jobs go right through the end of the year. You got a few that you're probably trying to finish up. We have a few that have to be done this week, but been sitting in my computer for 3 days straight trying to reorganize some parts of my business and company and taking some of the lessons learned from 24 and trying to get ready for 2025. So is that similar?
Yeah, so like with me, I've been reconciling and stuff, and just going through billing to make sure that I get everything that we've done out. And then, like you said, we had I pushed our meeting to today. We usually do it on Mondays, so we did it today, and I just kind of talked about how like, hey, this is the last one of the year. Let's make this next year the best one. And what can we do to change, right? Let's take everything that we learned from this past year and kind of write it down. Let's get it all together, because if you just talk about changing and then you don't do anything, that's all it is talk. And what we say, we don't talk about it, be about it. So let's start doing that. And that's what our meeting was about this morning.
Sweet.
Mine is
What?
I've just been trying to figure out ways to be more efficient on my end as well. Trying to look for different ways to take notes so everything's kind of automated instead of all the notebooks, all the scattered thoughts. I need to try to get everything consolidated so that way it's an easy share with everybody. So that way Daniel and I are on the same page all the time instead of just most of the time. Same thing with the crews. Trying to do all that. I mean,
So
same thing you do every year, right? And every year,
yeah, but
seems like I
hopefully,
can close it out a little bit.
there's a little bit of retrospect. So as we close out 24, have you had a chance to like sit and garner lessons from 2024? Like if you recap the year in a sentence, what would that look like for you guys?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, if you haven't, taken a second, and I've taken a few days, and we're launching Teams this next year, so I'm going to be a team leader in my company, not Microsoft Teams, but Teams as in the current way we do things. We like have a couple estimators, 5 project managers, couple coordinators, accounting staff, that kind of thing. And work comes in, it goes on the bid calendar, someone grabs it, estimates it. If we win the job, I sign the contract, and Joel, our COO, assigns it to a project manager. That's how we operate now. Trying to give our customer a more boutique experience and more detailed, customized experience. We're switching to Teams. So we're going to create teams in our company. Each team will have a team leader, a project manager, and a estimator. That's in what we call an initial team, and then we'll have a expanded team and then a full team. Expanded team is just 2 project managers on that team with a team leader and an estimator, and then we'll have a full team, which is 3 project managers with a team leader and an estimator. And then we're going to assign clients to each team so that that client gets a very familiar experience each time. That way they're not getting one project manager, one job, the next job, some other project manager, and the next job, another PM, and some other person they're dealing with all the time. This way they're always dealing with the same team lead, the same estimator. So all the bids will be very familiar looking because we all send out our bid form is the same, but you tweak it
You
a
fill
little
it out
bit. It looks,
differently.
it's just a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
different. I may bold everything out or have a lot of caps and other people may not. And some people you get my point. Same
yes,
form, just a little different style to each one. And I've never been a big dictator, like, no, you do it my way. I mean, each person has to have a little bit of freedom in their role. So essentially the goal was to, after kind of looking back and listening to some concerns from customers and seeing where we fell down and where we did well, when we had the same guys on the same jobs with the same people, those jobs just ran smoother and our
yep,
customer was happier. So I proposed this to a few of our customers and they went, heck yeah, that is, I wish you would have done this years ago. So putting that structure, it's easy to say that. You got to put structure together behind the scenes on
Right.
everything, who reports to who, what's the information flow. So I've spent a lot of the last week putting that whole structure together, preparing to launch teams. I made a joke with one of my guys. I said, we're going to have a draft where you got 2 team leads and we're going to draft players. But I also remember being the last one picked, and that's probably not a good idea.
Rock, paper,
But,
scissors.
yeah.
yep. Should have did a tournament.
No, we're going to pick it
Going
on strengths, matching strengths and weaknesses. So someone who's strong here, so we'll make sure there's a technical guy that was an old installer on each team, that kind of thing.
And I think like that's awesome. It's different over here since we're a lot smaller than you, right? So it's just me and him. And basically I have my clients and he has his, so it's the
Yep,
same but different, right? Because it's just 2 of us, but it's still like he's handling his and it's the same thing every time.
Yeah. Well, that atmosphere that you have when you're small, that's what people like. I mean, that's what people liked when we were smaller. But you grow away from it and don't recognize I'll speak for myself. I grew away from it, didn't recognize how chaotic it must seem to the client to always have a different estimator and a different project manager. And who do I call when I have problems? What if the PM's not answering their phone or they're out on vacation? Who's my guy? Like, the PM can be gone and your team lead is boom. You know what I mean? Uh, so it's essentially, you guys are what we call a pilot team. So as we grow, if we want to grow the business, we grow through teams. And so we will take an aspiring team leader off of one of the
yep.
teams, put them as a team lead, hire a new PM for them, and then
Improve, multiply.
and can you see the pay?
He said my brother said he looks like Cartman from South Park with the hat on.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little far up. Um, but yeah, so you take that aspiring team lead and you put them over into their own team. I'm going to pull this back with that comment. pull my table back a little bit. Pardon me, guys. Maybe that's a little better. I don't know. But and then he's a pilot team, so he's by himself, and he shares one of the other team's estimators until he builds up enough business, and then he'll get a PM. Gives him a chance to be in that position for a bit before he has the responsibility of, like, you know, um, running the whole team. So anyway, I said all that just to say that I looked back on 2024 as a real rebuilding year for our company, and that we we had a lot of tough times this last year, and it's been one of those learning lessons kind of a year, even after being in business so long. So both for Go Carrera and Stuart and Associates, both of the companies, it's going to be kind of a new year, a new season, and a new approach. So yeah, really excited about that, and looking forward to 2025. So
Yeah, and it's
you
it's
guys,
that mindset,
what's your
right?
big plans?
So I've been reading or listening to, right, because the Audible, but a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and that's what's kind of taken me in on this. What do we got to do in order to change and make things better? Because Mr. Tom, Happy New Year.
Happy New
I
Year.
mean, that's what we're always looking for, is that growth, right? So how's it going to happen? It doesn't just happen by not doing anything.
Yeah, or doing the
Yep.
same thing.
Or doing the same thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And it trying to change like some of our generic terms and everything in our system, so that way we're on the same page, Daniel and I. And if I take over his stuff, then I know what to look for. We're almost there. There's definitely a lot of moving parts when you start looking at things like that, because you start restructuring one aspect, and then you're like, oh, well, if I do that, this doesn't complement it anymore. Now I need to change this a little bit, and it's going to be one of those forever evolving things. As long as you're doing it for growth, and growth doesn't necessarily mean getting bigger, right? Growth can be
Better.
just being more consistent, getting the right clients, right? Like growth could be within the company instead of outward as well. So trying to figure that out is always fun.
That's a good point. It could be not growing from size perspective at all, and just growing in happiness, getting systems put in
Yeah,
place and all that kind of thing, which, that's kind of what, one of the things I'm trying to create a dashboard that has every single project. And so now I'm going to start talking about like predictions and like future stuff, but I've been researching AI agents. As you guys know,
dude.
Chat is our friend, but I use Chat GPT quite often. But what I'm really working on is trying to get AI is to learn how to build an AI agent and do that to take our processes and move our project to the next process, and
Like
um,
automatically.
automatically,
Yeah,
and tie everything together to where when we have a job, it knows we have this. We tell it, okay, here's a new job, and tell our system new job. It goes in our project management software that like is got kind of a new flow, and then there's triggers that AI agent moves it and automatically orders it when we get reviewed submittals, and it reads the submittals and it compares. And when it doesn't know, it can ask a question, for example, that or make a observation that this doesn't match that. So when you get your return submittals on a project that you submitted on, and it compares to your sheet, it can read through that, whether it's PDF or Excel, and recognize differences as long as the codes are the same. Now, that's going to fail about 80% of the time, probably, until it's, perfected. But it's really cool thought. It's something that may take an entire year to get down, but how cool would it be that you get return submittals and you upload them into your software, and then your materials are automatically ordered. Just magic.
Boom.
Boom.
There's
You should give this system to I don't even know if I should call them out because it's a company that just got bought by another company, a distributor, and we've had so many issues with them.
dude.
Well, if this is a vendor, I'll tell you what one of our sayings around here is, and it's so frustrating because we rely on our vendors so much. I know you guys do too. So this is when I say we, it's everyone on this podcast. We rely on our vendors to execute and give us accurate ETAs and this kind of stuff. Like, we rely on that. We pass that information on a lot of times.
Yeah.
When that doesn't happen, we look like the a-holes. And so I tell everybody here, we have to be better than our vendors. And I've told my vendors that. I say, you realize one of our mantras at our company is that we have to be better than our vendors, meaning you as a $150 million a year company or $400 million a year company, our little company has to be better than you.
You got to be better. Got to pick up the pieces when everything goes wrong. You got to foresee.
Sonny says we're only as good as our vendors. Well, I'd say
as good as your weakest link.
That there's some meat on that to discuss. I think we're only as good as our processes. Our vendors being a piece of fitting into one of those processes, and our installers and our employees and us. We're only as good as our processes. I'm a real binary thinker too, so I'm stuck. If I don't have a system or a process to follow, I'm out in left field chasing butterflies. Maybe a little ADHD on top of that.
Squirrel, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If I'm binary thinker, so it's like do this task, then do this task, then do that task, especially when it comes to project management.
Yeah, so we do have a new feature right now too. They just launched on here, and we are live on TikTok right now as well.
Yeah.
And then we got a comment that says we are only as good as our last cut. Floornography.
That's only as good as our last cut. All right, I'll take it. As out in the field, as long as it's not roll goods, you can redo your cut.
Yeah.
Make it your last cut. So what's exciting for you guys in 25? And hey, everybody out in the audience, we got plenty of people on here. What's your goals? And not that you need to, I like to review and actually set goals, not just at the end of the year, but this is always a good time to reflect and look forward. So what's on your guys' radar for 25 for preferred flooring, for Jose and Daniel, and like what if you look back at the end of the year next year, will you say, yeah, that was a heck of I accomplished that? What is that thing?
Yeah, better way of sifting through projects, potential bid opportunities. Need to find a better, more efficient way to do that. Daniel and I definitely put ourselves in a very, very busy predicament. And, we missed a couple events and no days off in the field, as well as the office. But finding ways to stay on task and keep the work flowing, so to speak, right? Like as soon as we stop bidding and stop looking, then we know we're going to have a dead spot in our schedule. And that doesn't generate consistency throughout the year. And fortunately, that spot when we got too busy was the area that kind of feeds a little bit of the slow time for us. So, but we're managing right now. We're getting through it. Guys are still working. We still have got a backlog a bit, so doing all right. But we could be better.
Yeah, the processes are always, and that's one of the things when we used to have project executives. That was one of the problems with just having a project executive It's kind of similar to the teams approach, except for teams. Our team setup is much more defined than the project executive position. But man, those guys would get a ton of work, and then they got busy managing that work, and they'd have these really just peaks and troughs, like really
Yes.
bad. And that's where having more than just, having some diversity on our teams, I want to make sure that we have that. So we have someone really strong at always bidding work. And that's why you always have an estimator and you always have a team lead. And then your PMs are busy managing. Team lead manages relationships and some projects, key accounts, but essentially not getting so boggled down with project management that the estimator is not supported enough to be able to feed that team. It's like you got to have someone out in the field, plowing the field and planting and harvesting all the time, or planting and getting it ready for you to harvest. And it's this business is exhausting sometimes. And I mean that in not just flooring, but like specialty
Running a
contractor.
business.
Running
running
a
a
specialty
business.
construction company is exhausting.
Yeah, and
So
you see, videos all the time and they say, if you're an entrepreneur and you own your own business, if you haven't just sat somewhere and just put your face in your hands and thought, I'm done. Like, then
What am I doing this for? Why do I do
yeah,
this?
but that's the ticket, right? It's what are you going to do after that is that's what starts that growth, right? It's getting beat down to that point and then like this is what I got to do to change it. And in the meeting this morning, we were talking about it, and I came in on like a Saturday or something, and my daughter was like, "Dad, why are you going to work? It's Saturday." And it's like, "Yeah, but I don't mind going to work." So things got to get done.
It's got to get done.
yep.
I mean,
Yeah, I
I
would
came
say
in on
that
Christmas.
if you spend enough time on Instagram Reels or Instagram, you think you should be a business owner. And I'm not discouraging anybody from being a business owner. I encourage it, but pick pick wisely.
I will say that there's a couple things too that are going to be driving it for 2025 is a lot of the policies that have just passed that are taking effect turn of the year or early February, mid February. Got to kind of prep for those, right? Like you could do as much research as possible, but over here we had one party stepped out and kind of like rebelled against the other, and there was some things that got passed that there was no thought behind it, right? Like long term thought. And I just got to figure out how that's going to affect us and what we could do to mitigate some of that too. Unfortunately, politics is a lot to do with business, regardless of whose side you take or what you're claiming, and sometimes some decisions are really good for you, some decisions are not. As a business owner, there's nothing out there to protect business owners. It's all about protecting the community and employees. So we got to figure out a way
Well,
to.
the truth is, for business owners, it just is. Whatever it is, it just is. And you have to adapt. We have to adapt. We have to figure it
100%.
out. And so that's why, a lot of mentors that I've followed over the years, they're like, who cares who's president or who's in? Like, are you going to shut your business down? No, you just have to
Right.
adapt. And
Adapt,
so
adjust.
you got to find the way and what you're doing, research. How are you going to go up against it? How are you going to, sometimes it's a tidal wave in your direction and it's awesome. And sometimes it's a tidal wave coming at you and you just got to deal with both, both of those. And so, yeah, that's a good point that as, these 4-year cycles that our country's in, and this was a big change this year. So I'm not sure how everything's going to pan out, but we're going to dig our heels in and do our very best to supply the best service to our customers the best product advice and best delivery, the best experience overall. I really want to focus this year, both companies, on the experience, like being part of something, doing something a little bit different, being treated like you matter as a client of our flooring company, or as a installer or a customer at Go Carrera. Um, if I had like my big goal this year for 25 is everybody to have a rating. We're going to be changing the name from Hammer Rating. I know I've said that on the
Do you
podcast
have a
before
name yet?
here. We have a short list. I really want to form the advisory board, which I've invited some people to verbally. Some formal letters are going to be going out here this next week, and that advisory board will help kind of finalize that, as well as, I want more people to have access to really great people, and we don't know who the great people are unless they get on. And so we're kind of restructuring how what is Go Career today, how it operates, and what its strategic goals are. But all in all, it's always going to be to um, make sure that the installer who has identified them, like has um, invested in themselves into their craft and their skill level, that they stand out, and they stand out in the marketplace and can make more money because they've dedicated themselves to being great at what they do. And to separate those guys that go jump in a truck after 6 months of being with somebody and say, hey, I'm a flooring installer. And I just, there's no downside that anybody's ever told me or that I can find that is making those separations and making it clear. From a company's perspective, you can benefit your installers based on their skill level and encourage them. If they're hourly employees, you can pay them more as their skill level increases, and that be your mechanism. But as the community or the people out there getting the service in their homes and offices, they deserve to know. No different than the Carfax. I've brought that up plenty of times. You want to know how your car performed in the past so you can guess how it's going to perform in the future. There's not much difference. People can change, but at the same time, your immediate past and how you view yourself in this industry, I believe, people should know and be able to make wise decisions when they select their professional. And I think we should all be professionals. So making that dream really come to reality in 25 is like, if I stand on the doorstep at 26 and there's tons of people that are on Go Carrera's, whatever its final version name is, but on the have a profile, not in working in the app, but using their profile strength to earn them more business, to earn them higher pay, to get them the job and outpace their competition. That dream, I'm pushing for that dream to come true in 25.
And we'll be alongside with you there, man, because that's to separate yourself organically and intentionally like that is always a goal, right? Just to earn the respect of an industry and your peers and the public and consumers and clients, for them to understand the amount of work that an individual puts in to be able to do a sizable project or even a small one very well and efficiently, to understand and know why they got to that point would be great.
Yeah, have some confidence in their selection.
Yes.
If you take a survey of like your ANG or your Check a Trade over in the UK, or all these different thumbtacks, that kind of thing, the number one problem that people have is that they don't know what they're getting. They say it every time. Every negative review is this guy said he knew how to do it and he didn't. That sums up about 90% of all negative reviews on those sites. What if you didn't?
Oh,
What if you did know who you were getting? What if you did have a good experience, or you decided to be cheap and hire a half, a point 0.5 level guy or a half hammer guy, and you got what you paid for? Like, at least you know who you're getting when you pay. And I think that if that dream can come true, um, the consumer base will be better served and the installers will be better served. And so will the training entities, the manufacturers. You're going to have guys who are really, really good, um, getting rewarded for being really, really good.
and that's
And
I wish this
hopefully
came about
inspire
here.
some other guys to get
Yeah.
really, really good.
Well, and not only that, right? It gives people a goal too. Like if I could get to a little bit of a higher skill set, hand skills, or acquire more talent from a disciplines perspective on installing more than one type of flooring, then maybe I can start my own business. Maybe it's something that I can comfortably do and I can offer more right away instead of
Well, anybody can
I
do
can
that right now. The problem is nobody
I can
gets
just
the
clip.
clout. Nobody gets the
There you
clout
go.
for doing it. They don't
The
get the
metrics
dinero
behind
for
it,
doing
right?
it, right? And they don't get the clout for doing it. We want to add the clout and the dinero to the that pursuit. And I know Daniel
Direct
said it
link to a
before.
review.
I'm not so sure. I know he said this. I'm not so sure that we have a labor shortage as much as a quality labor shortage,
Mhm.
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, if you look at the job market in general, there's people that are posting on social media all the time that, they're filling out applications everywhere and they can't find a job, right? But it's that quality that you're looking for. And maybe I want to say that some of these people, they just don't have that quality. And
I can't tell you, as hiring hourly employees myself, if a guy comes in with a Go Carrera like profile, if this ever happens to me, I'm going to call you guys and we are going to, I don't drink, but I'll pop a bottle of champagne anyway. And, but if I ever had somebody come in with a Go Career profile and show it to me and say, "This is who I am. This is proof of my skill set, and I'd like to get a job with you." How much easier does that make my hiring process if they have high scores?
Well, first off, if they did that, you're just gonna like get that twinkle in your eye right away. I already see it. Like, yes,
But if somebody walked
this
in
is
your
full
office and
circle.
they were a level 5 or level 3, or had 3 hammers, in today's vernacular of hammer rating, they had 3 hammers and a good reputation score in the 80s, showing that they've you know really made people happy when they do their work. Like, how much just
I'd be very excited actually. Like,
that's the
I
biggest
think,
problem we have hiring people is knowing whether or not what they're telling us is real. Because
well,
if all we had to do is listen to them and hire them based off that, life's easy.
right,
If it
because
was always
a lot
true.
of a lot of what we look at is you're always looking at reviews on everything anyways, right? Everyone does it. You go on Amazon, you check out the reviews. Up, this is not a good review. I'm gonna pass on this one. It's the same
Hmm.
thing with us, right? People need to be able to look at us and be like, well, they don't have good reviews, so I'm just gonna pass on them. And you're just giving them that streamlined option. And a lot of guys don't have a website, so it gives people somewhere to look for them. Because how many times have you been looking for someone and it's like you go to research them, nothing pops up, so you just
Hmm.
pass them right over? It's the same type of thing. We need to stop looking at it like I don't need to be validated. To the entire world looks at validation like that as something that needs to happen.
right, and you know what? The you just said I don't need to be validated.
Yeah,
And
validate me, baby.
if I told you that back in the day, if somebody would have said, "Hey, why don't you go get certified?" I would have said, "What for?" I know I'm good at it. I don't need to go get certified. Like that was my answer. But as you get older, you start realizing how many people may have passed up on you because you didn't have a individual credential or something like that. And
I mean,
that's what this is. This is your diploma, right? This is your certificate of completion that you see in a doctor's office. This is the equivalent to it, except for it can still grow. It can still evolve. You can add more to it.
I follow some influencers on social media, right? And they say if you want to work with my company and and you don't have a company email, I don't even look at you. It gets down to like that sometimes. Like you need to look at yourself and be as professional as you can because that's what some of these high profile people are looking for.
Yeah.
So what you're
And
Yeah, a lot
saying
of people
is,
don't like to see the Gmail at the end of
yeah,
your
and
email
it's
address.
crazy how easy it is these days. If you have an iPhone, you can buy a domain. It's like $15 or $20 a year. You buy the domain, you go on your iPhone, you use iCloud, and you can get your own company email going directly to your phone. You don't need a website or anything, but at least you have that professional look.
Yeah. And if you can back it up with proof of professional credentials, you have a like recipe to really, I think, the guys that for our trade to start to be paid their worth and putting all everybody on a more of a level playing field. We're kind of out of this may not be taken well by some of the other companies or the industry, but we just don't have a free market, like it's the guys that can do the jobs. They a lot of times they're the ones that get the work, and they're the ones that will have the attitude like, I don't need, you know, whatever. Well, some of our best guys, we overwork and then they fall down and we give a bad experience because of it. That's the truth. Like some of our best subs, we will overwork because we know they can do the job. So we put them on the job when they want the job. And at the end of the day, they get overloaded. They're out looking for
Happy
help
New Year,
just
Danny.
like we are, you know? And
That's
And
not Danny.
so there's just a better way. What's up, Danny Sherman, my
That's
brother?
Paul's twin.
That's my twin.
so
That's my twin.
and to add on to what you just said about overworking them, and the as any good sub will take as much work as they possibly can because they know it's feast or famine, right? They know if they're not building up that bankroll, if they're not putting something away and
That's what they feel
increasing
like.
what they right, because it could end tomorrow like that. And it sucks to feel like that. And but it's a reality. A lot of the people who work hard like that and don't stop because they grew up with nothing, they came from nothing, and they know they don't want to go back. And they will overwork themselves and put themselves in a position to maybe not perform at capacity sometimes.
Or they depend on people that you don't have any idea of is even on your job. You give this
Yep.
guy a job and he has this guy doing it that he hired because he can't quite get there, but he didn't want to say no to the work and blah blah. You know, there is a better way. Getting that better way accepted and in the marketplace, and then even demanded from the consumer base and architects on the commercial side, and you know the residential side of the world, really like, hey, I'd like to see your verification of your skill set. When homeowners start asking that, and picking people by their skill set and by how much they want to pay, and if we can create this atmosphere where if they're going to pay a half hammer guy, just know he may be a little cheaper, but you get what you paid for. It goes all the way up to 5 for a reason, in increments of 10. So that's like 500 increments, or 50 increments. Sorry, that was bad math. But you get my point. Like it's in small increments. So you can
Many small time make big time.
many small time make big time. All right. Well, happy New Year to you guys. I can't
Yes,
I
sir.
look down and we're like 10 minutes from
I
the
know.
end
Yeah,
of
I
this
just did that
podcast.
too.
I think this is different than what we did last year when we talked about projections, because we're not talking about projections like what do you think the market's going to look like next year or anything like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
what are we projecting for ourselves? And I think a lot of people can take that and kind of run with it, right? You look at where do you want to be a year from now? Take that and start breaking that down, because that's the only way you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great advice, man.
I think this year coming up, 2025, is going to be more of who do I want to work with and how do I get on their radar, right? And how can I make them see, or how I don't want to make them see. How can I get an opportunity to show them the value that we offer? Because I know that once we do that, once we can show them, I know that will be an easy phone call for the next project. Problem is getting the foot in the door enough times to create the consistency so the difference stands out. That is always the challenge.
So Walter says it's hard for most entrepreneurs to turn away jobs, income, profit. And I just seen a video earlier that addresses this very topic, because they said, we don't say no, we just price accordingly. So if
Yeah.
you know it's going to be horrible,
And if you
a
know you
horrible
got
project,
your worth. That's the other thing. If you know and can show your worth visibly to somebody, that's like, you know, it takes me back. I talked to a general contractor this last year, and he's like, well, send me all this like background information, and just because it's like it's desired intently that people want to know who they're dealing with. It's getting more so from the GC to us. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but like pre-qualifications and like all this stuff, we have to do that. We are not doing that to ourselves.
yeah,
As an industry, we are not doing anything like that
I've seen
with our
it, you know, and
subcontractors.
I've been in meetings with some smaller companies, and that's what they're like, why do you guys want to know all this information? My brother, when we first started, was like, I don't want to share this information. But guess what? Everyone wants this information, and they want
They want our
basically your
financials for
business
the
life
last 3
story,
years. They want to
Everything,
know
dude.
who have we
Yeah.
worked for and the contact
your
info,
vendors.
vendor information, a bank reference, our
To
bonding
justify
capacity.
why I
Like,
said that, you gotta remember, Daniel. Like I grew up, we're only 6 years apart, but I grew up in a time where people stole my identity because I was Hispanic, and it was an easy steal, right? So there's a trust barrier that I had to overcome for that first one, and I just don't like giving out information that isn't. I don't feel like it's safe. You can't take it back off the web, right? Like it's going over the internet, going via fax. I just feel like it was new to me, and all I could think about was what happened in the past when information was misused. But now it's normal.
Yeah, now it's everyday practice, and people do want to know. I mean, they want to know who they're dealing with. That's why online profiles, or if you're getting hired, people go to your Facebook page, and they want to know who they're dealing with. I know we all want to know the skill level of the thing we want you to do, that you're good at doing that thing. We want to know that. We just have to accept as a industry and as a community that it's important to do it, and we all go do it. Danny said the problem is most salespeople bid the jobs out to the lowest bidder. Well, if you build your company on quality, and I mean say a retailer builds themselves on quality, the lowest bidder, either in my ideal world, the lowest bidder doesn't exist. Like they're a competitive bid, but you're comparing apples to apples. The lower bidder is almost a farce, because lowest bidder, how can you do a low bid if you're not comparing apples to apples? That's why architects and engineers and designers and general contractors are involved in the commercial side, because you're trying to bid they want apples to apples bids. Most GCs, most of them, do not want just a low bid because they missed something. They don't want the problems that
You
brings.
should just start giving
They
everybody
want
bids.
apples to apples bids.
Um,
You got a couple levels of of that in there, but the consumer doesn't have any of that. They don't have any in between to make sure they're bidding apples to apples from a skill standpoint, sometimes from a product standpoint, but you get my point. Like you, the lowest bidder in an ideal world is still a good installer. That then we can all thrive. But also retailers using subpar labor, at the end of the day, they'll have a bad reputation for getting jobs done, a bad reputation for quality, and the retailers who care about that stuff will rise to the top. That's what I think.
He said more in some workrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen it, right? I mean, we've all seen it. That's they're the low bid, so then they bid it out so that way they can get as much profit as they can. And then that's the thing, that if you're in a position to where you're trying to grow and you're looking at things like this, and that's how we were, it's you have to make yourself kind of uncomfortable and put yourself out there and talk to people, because then you create relationships, and we're all about relationships. And these, project managers and estimators from some of these construction companies that you're working for will reach out to you when they have questions, and it becomes more like, I talk to them and they're like, man, every time we have these people, there's nothing but issues. But every time we have you guys, everything is like so nice, and I wish we could work with you more. And it's like, but that's the mindset that you have to change, and
Yeah.
it's getting your people to say, hey, we probably shouldn't use them, even though the price is competitive, right? Maybe it's just a little lower, but you're gonna get this, I don't even,
Superior
experience
service. Yeah.
experience if you go over
You know
here,
what?
right? That's what
I
we're
got
selling, is the experience.
I got an
Mm-hmm.
idea. I got an idea, but we have to talk about it off air.
Sounds good. I tell you, eventually I could see architects specifying some level, um, and companies have an overall rating themselves based on their network. Like who, you know, our general contractors will request certain installers. If you can show that you have an average installer rating of XYZ, um, and contractors knew and depended on it, that would set the market apart as well, because then everybody would be trying to get that rating up and only work with the best, and those the guys that really want to make a great living can. um, yeah, it's a bit euphoric, or this idea, utopian, uh, but it's also one of those deals where it's how it works in other industries. Like the best spine doctor makes the most money.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
The best
legit.
brain surgeon makes the most. The best attorney makes the most. And you can identify that through their credentials, where they went to school, how they got their education, how long they've been doing it, and their reputation. And we can create a similar environment here, as a unit, if we all band together. And I'd be happy for the rating to take off and me walk away and not a bit of the work go across the GoCareer network. My goal is for the installers to get the ratings and improve themselves and have something to strive for, and that rating equals to them a better life, a better experience in life, happier work relationships with the people they work for. Yeah, it's a bit utopian, but it's a dream. That's why.
Everything's got to start with a dream, though, right?
Yeah. Well, brothers, we've come to the end. To the audience, thank you so much for being with us throughout this last year, and your comments and your likes and your subscribes to our networks have been not taken lightly. We very much appreciate you guys. I'm going to talk to the guys. We're going to try to be a little bit more at some of the shows this year. We all missed some last year. It's just part of, getting busy and being overwhelmed. But as a Huddle team, trying to have some representation and getting around and saying hi to everybody and meeting you guys out at the events. You guys have a great new year. We wish you all the best and the most success. And we look forward to a great 2025.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be a great year, and we're going to make it. We're going to make it that way.
It is what you make it. Last words of wisdom, Jose, for 2025 or 2024 before we hit 2025.
Hey, don't cry over spilled milk. Why don't you go get a towel and some cleaner, clean it up, and start all over.
Yeah, all right, everybody. It's been a blessed year. We love you guys. Keep coming back, and we will see you
Happy
guys
New Year,
next
everyone.
year.
All right.
Happy
See you
New
guys.
Year.